Cardiovascular Institute of the South is celebrating 40 years of delivering healthcare to our patients and communities. Founded by Dr. Craig Walker in 1983 and guided by a mission to provide the highest quality cardiovascular care available, CIS has pioneered hundreds of firsts to improve outcomes for cardiovascular diseases. Through new technology, virtual care, outpatient procedures, and national growth, CIS is improving lives and leading the way for advanced care and innovation.
Everybody, welcome into Going Public. I am Harry McCullough. This week it's the North Lafourche Levee District. The North Lafourche Levee District Executive Director is Dwayne Bourgeois, and the Levee District Program Manager is Arthur Houma. So thanks so much for being here. We appreciate it. We got some project updates that we're going to talk about for sure. But I guess Thursday, Liz Morrell, who's now our Attorney General, who when she was working with Jeff Landry, filed the first suit of the risk rating 2.0 FEMA that you guys, I guess, were the first to bring the lawsuit. We've talked about it a bunch. It's moved around a little bit, but what did Liz say last week?
Yeah, I think again, the suit's been filed. We weren't found to have enough data, even though the judge did find that there was irreparable harm. He didn't rule for injunctive relief that would have stopped risk rating 2.0 on the spot. He did, however, find, against what FEMA's motion was, that we did have standing. I know at least most of the folks had standing. He actually threw some of the groups out of the suit, saying they didn't have standing because they themselves didn't suffer damage. But it's believed by the AG, Jeff, when they filed this, everybody, when they worked on this initially, that if only one of the group that filed the suit had standing, the rest could remain in the suit to whatever level that would be. So that's still a question that's up for discussion at some point. But where we were more specifically is that we had a requirement, the judge had a requirement that FEMA deliver what they're calling the administrative record. Everything you had about risk rating 2.0, you need to put on the table. And the requirement was for that to be delivered by the end of July. Sometime just before that deadline, FEMA filed a motion, and I may not be saying the right legal terms, but a motion or something for a court order to stop them from being forced to share certain data, two types of data. One was personal information for anybody who was a policyholder, whatever. The second was trade secrets of their subcontractors, right? And the first one, it was dumb that they even put it in there, in our opinion, because we were always in a disposition where we didn't want to share that. And they were working towards a process to get that done. But putting it aside, the second part, the not wanting to share trade secrets of their contractors, which is the heart of what we're trying to find here, is, how does the model work? They indicated that does include the model. Well, where do we go with this? Right. So I think it was a bit of a delay tactic. As soon as that's filed, then the state has to say why that should not be, which they did, and I think they did a great job arguing that. And there'll be a hearing coming up about it in a couple of weeks, where I guess the judge is going to decide whether he agrees with their court order request or disagrees, and then they'll have to produce the stuff. Right. But right now they don't have to produce it, pending the outcome of this issue being settled. And I think that, in speaking with Liz Morrell and the Deputy Solicitor General Morgan Brungard, that we had to go down this rabbit hole at some point, right? They were going to try to protect this from a trade secret point of view. So maybe it's just as well that we went down it. We're going down the rabbit hole now.
Sure. So. No, we might have a 5.0 before we figure this out.
We can't afford 2.0. I don't know what 5.0 will look like.
I know, but they seem to be delaying a little bit as they go. Good to hear that point, because I think when I read the headlines of they threw out everybody except the original lawsuit people that brought the suit, which was you guys, I was like, oh no, tier one's now out. It's going to have to go through this by themselves. But you say everybody will be as a...
Yeah, actually the levee districts got thrown out as well, and the Association of Levee Boards got thrown out as not having standing. Several parishes were included, but there were several parishes who actually own property and were paying for flood insurance and therefore should have still been in the suit as well. And so they're working through that. It's just things you got to do. The, court process takes a little time.
It is what it is. So, as we come up on the anniversary of a couple of big storms, and we've been watching them for sure. So let's talk about the NLLD and the update some of the projects. Huh?
Yeah, well, we've got Arthur with us. He's my program project manager. So I think we can go through a few slides, watch as we go through and kind of give you a little bit of information on some of the projects.
Yeah, we burn a little time here, so we got about a minute and a half here. We'll start with Raceland, right?
Well, yeah, in Raceland Prairie District 2 of 12 project, we were fortunate to get $4.225 million in capital outlay for this project, and with our match, we were able to award a $4.8 million project. This was able to bring to 6.5 feet over 5 miles of levees for the areas 2 of 12 and 1 of 12 areas. And this project's going really well, which we expect to be completed in the next 3 months.
So September 24 in that area, in that range. Huh?
And these levees in our area keep water out of people's homes and out of 24/7 all the time. It's the only levees in the North Lafourche area that work all the time on keeping water out. So they are important to make sure they're sound in the elevations.
Yeah.
This photo right here shows some of the work taking place. That's the 212 pump station, or they call it also the Lake Drive pump station. Looking down Bayou Falls, and this levee parallels Bayou Falls pretty much the entire way.
So that water's always high, though, right?
Yes.
I think that's what you meant by
Relative to the land.
The differential,
24,
the
right?
differential's
Right. Yeah.
always there, where several feet of differential.
Yeah, you can see that when you cross Highway 90, right? That's some of that
Exactly.
waterway, right?
Exactly. That's exactly
And,
what you're looking at there.
and so those are real important, and to have those pumps working is a big project. So to get $4.225 million.
And we also, just real quick, we have $2.75 million in capital outlay we were able to get this year also. So we'll be able to piggyback this with another project in the near future.
Absolutely. All right, we'll take one break. We'll be right back. We're going public right after this.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by South Louisiana Bank. It's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough.
Everybody, welcome back into Going Public. Harry McCullough here. The North Lafourche Levee District's Executive Director is Dwayne Bourgeois, and Arthur Osama is the Program Manager. So, guys, thanks so much for being with us. Sure. We're going to move down the bayou a little bit and go to Lockport and LaRose, right?
Right, and the first project we're talking about is Reach B1. This is actually in our Lockport to LaRose system. Lockport has a ring system. This is the first Reach. And we had $1 million in CPRA funding, which came from a surplus account. And we were able to award a $2.8 million project to Lowland Construction, which is pretty much just completed, where they were able to raise this levee to 7 feet and create a structurally stable levee. So we were very happy. This really gives us 2 more reaches in our Lockport to LaRose systems that we'll end up working on in the future.
How big is that Lockport to LaRose system? How much miles?
It's approximately about 12 and a half miles.
12 miles. And all of it's up to 7 feet now?
No.
Quite, but we're getting there.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not just the elevation on these particular levees, it's the cross-sectional stability. They were, levees that were just forced into service as a levee. Originally, they were spoil banks. Originally, we just Headland roads, and they became spoil banks from the 40 Harper Canal. Then they were forced into service, and not necessarily fully engineered. So this brings them to a much more stable position. Even if their height isn't maybe as high as we were originally targeting, we can hope that Morganza to the Gulf comes along and makes them secondary levees.
Right.
And Morganza is coming along, just not fast enough.
We've only been talking about it about 30 years.
Yeah.
So we got a pump replacement station, right?
Yes, this is a Levee pump station replacement. We have basically 3 pumps that are in conflict with our Morganza to the Gulf alignment, and they're also in very poor condition, which pushed us to try to develop these new pump stations. And we were fortunate to get we awarded a $7.7 million project for this pump station. It's 3 48-inch pumps. We received almost $6 million from CPRA. And we were able to consolidate these stations into a new pump station to where we're going to basically replace, it's 4 pump stations with 2. So there'll be less O&M in the future for the parish as they maintain these stations, and it'll allow us to move these stations and build the Morganza
Yeah, well,
levee alignment.
from looking at that picture, that's some pretty big pumps. So that's how you can replace 4 with 2 is to go to size like this.
Right. It's very much a holistic approach in trying to create a better system that has more retainage, greater capacity, and it also is working either within or but out without conflict to the Morganza system.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is
So,
why that station needed to be replaced in the first place. In that last picture, you saw those big reservoirs
big.
behind it. That's
Yeah.
where we actually used dirt to build other parts of the levee systems and what have you. We're able to construct this levee in the pump station in a dry condition, which saves you some money. And then those big ponds there and the other pond that's being dug in the back become retention for the whole system. So it's a lot of things brought together.
yeah, so you don't have to go bring in dirt from a long way. You got the dirt right there, and now you got a pond.
Well, and that's the secret. Good pricing is always about location with materials.
Yeah, no doubt there as well. So the force drainage system at Bowie Force Drainage?
Yes, and this is northern area for us in the Shoe Pick area. And the Bowie Force Drainage System was projects we started outlining in 2021. Before Ida, we had very high water event in that basin where water stayed high, and here the water only can get out of Baitas Almas, which is 300 feet for a 400,000 acre basin. Stayed high for 30 days, and constant emergency work where we were topping these levees with the parish. So we building these levees to a +5, and it's part of a kind of another master drainage plan where we're going to tie these systems together with pump stations in the future as we can. But over time, we developing these systems, and they were all done in an emergency. And so we bring it to a +5, which it's in the upper basin in its stable section, so it'll provide protection for the Shoe Pick residents.
And then the force drainage is just by having pumps. That means you have pumps that you
Yes,
force
just
it out.
force.
Because, you got 30 days of just wet conditions, right, if you don't have that drainage.
Correct. And they were fortunate that they didn't flood in these areas. Other areas of Shoe Pick where we're working on developing a levee, we still have a little ways to go on that.
So this dries out that land pretty good, and I'm sure that helps everybody involved, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so, a minute and a half. We've got Morganza to Gulf Reach B, 3B, I should say. It's an interim levy.
Yeah, in this project, just real quick, we got $7.13 million for CPRA. This is on the alignment. It'll be an interim levy on the alignment. It's actually on the Morganza, our alignment and Morganza, so we were able to construct it. But we are having to work through the Corps, which of course delays the process on it. But it should be coming out to bid later this year.
I got you.
But it serves as work in kind for the non-federal sponsors' cost share of the Morganza to the Gulf system. So we get protection now, and it's dirt on the ground that the federal government does not have to provide. Therefore, we get the benefits of credit towards the project.
And it's a line, and you didn't have to do it in an emergency situation, or do you?
Well, no,
well,
you're not really doing it in an emergency.
right
You're
now.
doing it ahead of the Corps.
I got you.
And so,
But the Corps works now with you guys to allow you to do work before they come in?
They do. They have a review process. Like right now, they're reviewing the 95%. That could be a whole show about the interaction.
You're rolling my eyes.
There's
but,
rules with the courts. You have to
Yes.
follow.
But we're working through the process.
Right. Y'all know the process, and y'all know what you're dealing with too. So
Yeah.
you can kind of, the roadmap for sure. All right, one more segment to go. We'll take a break. More, we're going public right after this.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System. Your health is our legacy. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bork, know your rights.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Going Public. Harry McCullough here. We're talking North Lafourche Levee District with Dwayne Bourgeois and Arthur Houma. We continue with Morganza to the Gulf, Reach 2.
Right, and we were just, the Reach 2 project is 3 phases for us, and it's just one of the Morganza reaches. The first was we wanted to gain protection elevation for this area. We had overtopping during Ida across this levee. 2,000 linear feet of this section overtopped. So the first step was we raised the elevation to 7, which we completed last year. The second part is now we're going to improve the drainage and conveyance channel to get to the pump stations. Because I mentioned in the last segment, we are building the Ludovine pump, and there'll be another pump that these pump stations will replace 4 areas. So this channel will be wide enough not only to allow the better conveyance channel, which will almost triple the size of the channel as it sits now, but is also going to be set back far enough to where we can create a better stability section for the levee for the Morganza alignment.
And that's more rural area. That doesn't look like a whole lot of houses right there, but
It is somewhat rural. They do have some neighborhoods in those areas.
they do. Okay.
But it also protects some residential areas further down.
And Highway 308. So,
right.
it's one of our 2 corridors up and down by Lafourche.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly don't want to be cut off from an evacuation route there. So Lockport to La Rose, Reach B3.
In this project, we talked about B1. This is the southern portion of the Reach B, which is kind of a mid part of that Lockport to La Rose system. This is a very narrow section of levee. It's not very long. It's only about 1,500 linear feet, but we're going to raise it to an 8-foot protection. We're going to have to do an interior build out because it's pretty much pinned along Bayou La Blue, but it also gets a little extra risk right there because of its proximity to Bayou La Blue.
Right.
And we hope to start that project some point next year.
All right. And then finally, we wrap up with the Industrial Park Road flood protection.
Right. And this project, we should be going out to bid in about 2 months. And this is part of that southern La Rose area that flooded. We call it the T-block community during Ida. And this was be the next lowest section that we're going to raise. It's part of the Industrial Park Road where there's low-lying areas of the road we're going to raise and tie it back into plus 9 feet. There's protection around this whole area that ties all the way back to Hamilton Street, but this will raise that area. And another important thing with this project is we're going to remove, there's culverts that are older culverts that are still existing that are tied into Bayou Lafourche and the Intercoastal Canal. And we're going to remove those because they allowed water
Come in,
during
right?
storm events.
Yeah, this is one of those projects, while it's not directly on Morganza's alignment, it is impacted by the build out of Morganza and water inside the basin moving around. So just like we had water for Hurricane Ida, putting a 9-foot reverse head on the Bubba Dove Lock in Terrebonne, we had water moving around in the basin here, and we have to make sure that we can accommodate. Most of the water came in from the east, but there is still those little things that as you button up one part, you've got to button up something else.
Yeah, but it's important to stay along the same guidelines as Morganza.
Right. Well, these would be not on the on alignment, and there's other communities like that are not exactly on alignment, but we have to make sure that we address the implications of Morganza while we're building out Morganza.
Sure. So a couple of different areas, Gaines and Upper Barataria.
Right. So that would be the same point, right? The Gaines community is not actually on the Morganza alignment. In essence, as the Morganza alignment on the eastern tie-in moves north, it doesn't jump on the Gaines levee, go around the Gaines community like the existing Gaines levee do, and then move on up to Upper Barataria, which is the remnants of the old Donaldsonville to the Gulf, so tying the Bayou Lafourche Ridge over towards the Mississippi River Ridge. So actually, the 2017 master plan showed that if you tie those two systems together, should they ever be built completely, you would induce additional water elevations in that community gains because they reside right there in that corner. And so knowing so, we basically worked with the state to say that any money that we spent on the Gaines community would be consistent with the Marganza to the Gulf and the support of that in the master plan. And so we've done some projects right now where we've really improved the stability of the Gaines levees and increased the elevation. So they've got their protection in place above what was anticipated in the 2017 master plan's inducements of those two systems, long before the systems have been completed. So we've got the Upper Barataria coming across as an east-west system. It would parallel Highway 90 just south of 90 along what's called the Godshaw Canal, and it would have a structure in Bahia des Almonds. It'll tie into the Sunset levees and the other levee systems in St. Charles, eventually to the Davis Pond Guide levees, and then West Bank and vicinity, and then all across. So we'd have protection at some point all the way to New Orleans East, and if we can build Marganza, protection all the way to Gibson, and that'll be that's a big milestone for Louisiana to have all of that protection in place. And so Gaines is actually in better shape now than they were. Upper Barataria is coming along. The Corps in New Orleans did receive an appropriation of $8 million for pre-construction engineering design. They had to sub that out to the St. Paul division, and so that St. Paul could work on it because they didn't have the capacity in New Orleans. And so you think, all right, here we've got an east-west levee, not on Mississippi rivers and tributaries directly, but in that system, being designed in the marshes of South Louisiana by a group in Minnesota. What could go wrong? So it's been a challenge, but they seem to be working out pretty good on. They weren't able to do all of what we were hoping they were able to do, but they're working on one of the most critical parts. And then we're continuing to work with the state on trying to keep everything else moving.
You got to plug all those gaps. Yeah, if we can go from Gibson to New Orleans East, that's pretty good.
That'd be a good
for
day.
a lot of people. Guys, thanks so much for the update.
Right.
That's Going Public. I'm Harry McCullough. We'll see you next time.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Alford and Associates for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.